Uh, Welcome back, dear participants. Welcome back to the session 2 of day 4 of AICTE sponsored STTP on startup driven bio innovation and IoT for sustainable agri-tech. So now with us we are having Dr. Muthu Kumaraswamy, founder and chief executive officer of Frutti and director and chief executive officer of Vistate Man Technologies and chief mentor of Tatvai and the principal consultant of Idea Labs Innomandra Consulting Private Limited and the researcher at Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Sir is a mechanical engineer with post-graduation in engineering design from Anna University. He has over 18 years of experience in automotive and aerospace industry and innovation management and new product development. His expertise is in transforming ideas and innovative products. Sir has initiated several innovation events, facilitated innovation workshops and ideation sessions. Prior to the entrepreneurial journey, he also conducted his research work at Indian Institute of Science and Aeronautical Development Agency, Bangalore, India. Later, he also worked with organizations such as Bosch, Siemens, VDO, and Continental Automotive. Currently, Sir is also pursuing his research on emergence of high technology startups as a part of his research program at IASC. He helps organizations to design and achieve their innovation and intellectual property goals, provide direction and service in proof of concepts at heads the Idea Labs, and conduct creativity and innovation workshops. Sir also working on technology scouting, collaborative innovation initiative at Innomandra by identifying, evaluating, and collaborating technical startups with our clients in the space of automotive, aerospace engineering, and IoT. He is also a mentor and on the board of three technical startups in the field of 3D printing, such as Tatvai, ADAS, Vistaman, internal research solutions for energy recovery, clean tech, IoT, and proof of concepts as service. Sir has two patents and has contributed significantly to intellectual property creations at various organizations. He is the winner of the Continental Automotive Gold Award for Innovation in 2010. Sir has two product innovations as his startups are now ready for market launch, and he is currently focusing on the intellectual property along with the commercialization roadmap and strategies. Sir, on behalf of the principal, staff, HOD staff, and students of the Department of Biotechnology, we extend a warm welcome for our session, sir. Sir, it's over to you. Sir, you are on mute.
Thank you, madam, for that quick introduction. And wonderful morning to all the participants. And I hope we will have an interactive session. I would and request all of you to post or ask questions. It'll be an interactive session. So I'm just trying to disseminate what I know rather than to say and also interact. So it's going to be an exchange of thoughts. So this is some area of my interest because of sustainability and clean tech being one of our focus areas, and we are driving certain products and model in the agri-tech as well, which is currently under various stages of exploration. So we would be dwelling upon this topic to see how the technology will help us lead with the agri-tech using the Internet of Things, which is everything now that we have, hold, and see. Uh, Now, this is an integral part of our lifestyle. We will see how Internet of Things has been a part of our lifestyle. For many of you, some of these things may look very elementary because I'd like to start with that so that I would like to set the context on which I would like to take forward the topic. So we start with Namaste. We know the context. We are all now moving back to the world where we want to have contactless greets. So I would like to say with a Namaste, start with a Namaste. A quick run through about Krutibim. So you will be appreciative of why or what makes it relevant for me to talk about this topic. So we are a startup that we founded in 2015 and established as a legal setup in 2018. We are a high-tech startup focusing on technology research, trying to enable technology for products, futuristic products. So the founders are from the top premium institutions in our country. So our we are predominantly systems thinkers and systems engineers. We're trying to utilize our knowledge in systems and systems approaches to bring in innovations that can touch and impact humankind and everything that will make our lives easier, make the way we do things better. So this is our extended ecosystem. We also run a consortium of technology startups where high-tech startups can come and get themselves be a part of the consortium, but we have an evaluation. So currently, we have these two technology startups. This is Sataman, which is in the advanced driver assistance systems, the automotive space, and Tatwai, which is an all-women startup, which is focusing on medical devices and using 3D technology and IoT. So we also have few industry and university collaboration, and Timber being one of our own internal uh, programs for our workforce. So broadly, you might see that Krutibim operates in these very technologies and industry. So we are in automotive, Internet of Things, wearable technologies, energy and sustainable systems. So running quickly, I think I can see most of you on my panel. We are all aware of what Internet of Things is. We'll start with a basic elementary understanding of what they are. They are network smart devices equipped with microchips and sensors, and can have the capability to have a wireless communication. If a device which is networked with microchip and sensors and has the capability of wirelessly communicating, these are all classified or are tagged or qualified for being an Internet of Things device. So pictorially, this is how it should look. You have a sensor and actuator and wirelessly connected to a controller. It could be a cloud or an edge computing, and wirelessly again communicating to the storage device for big data logging. Okay, so this whole ecosystem comprises for the Internet of Things. So they were in these things became popular in the recent time because of massive processing powers that our chips are now having. We will also see the advent or the use of internet is almost 50 to 60 years old. We are talking about it now. We'll even see how they were as ancient as that, I would as old as that, and what are they those devices, right? So today they are becoming much more popular and in convenient use is because our devices have a higher processing power, storage capacity. So even a small chip can store or a storage device can be able to manage a huge amount of data, right? And just imagine the cost of camera, chips and camera are also becoming less because of the vast consumption. So the economy of scale has kicked in, and these have made all of these being cost viable, right? So probably in the we have seen digital cameras were not less than 28 or 25,000. Today at 8,000, you're getting 4 cameras and a mobile phone and a lot more into it, right? So that's how the vast adaptation of technology and the economy of scales have enabled them to become most cost effective, right? And today we are also being able to assimilate a huge amount of data, either it is on a physical system or a remote physical system called the cloud, right? So these are all things that have enabled the adaptation of internet and being to make way into our daily life. So if you have any questions all through, please do raise your hands and let me know. I'd like to clarify then and there, let the flow not be missed out, because at the end of it, we will also not understand if the flow is missed out, right? So if you have questions, please do ask me then and there. So we have seen, this is a popular paper or journals or research articles we refer from Gartner for IoT and technology. In 2017, they said the majority of the portions for IoT was used for CMR, customer relation of management, enterprise resource planning, and asset management. Very true in terms of industry and when you're looking at industry and marketing and manufacturing industries. But interestingly, you'll also notice inventory management, field service management, supply chain, and other management and procurement. These are very much relevant to our farming. These are relevant to the agri-tech. Inventory management, you need to know how much of a crop that you want to grow and store. Do you have the capacity, and what is the uh, demand? What is it that I need to produce so that I don't produce more, or even if I'm producing more, how do I manage? How do I store? How do I distribute them? Then field service management, anything in agri-tech or agriculture is so much intense to manage. There are so many things that we're doing. There are multiple people, there are equipments, there are systems that are in place. All of them need to be managed. So it becomes an effective system. So IIT has becomes an effective system for such things. And supply chain management, from sourcing the seed, growing, you may have fertilizers, then you may have pesticides or biocides or whatever alternatives things that are used for your farming. When is the right time to source? Why do you stock them? All these things are also can be managed well from supply management angle. Other management, including funds, we have seen in our country or elsewhere. Uh, Agriculture has become a topic of context because there is a high risk involved in the agri sector. This is predominantly controlled by nature, right? By in the form of climate changes and cyclones or hurricanes. Right? So when these things are all happening, how do I manage my risk? And who's going to fund? What is the means and measures of managing all these things? So this is being also being addressed by uh, order management and procurement. Okay, there are newer fintechs technology which is also in the digital space, which are enabling what we call as non-organized sector to benefit from the various source of funding. So I was talking about this technology being very old as 50 years now, right? Almost 50, 60 years old. So what exactly was this first Internet of Things? Was the RFID. So I don't know how many of you have, you could recollect, uh, in the year 80s, 1980s, uh, in Bangalore, we had this motor arcade, which was on Brigade Road. It was the first shopping, it's the gateway or the first few shopping malls in Bangalore, city of Bangalore, right? So some of these shops had these tags that would prevent people from sneaking away articles away from their shops, right? So these are the RFIDs. They are also IoT device. Instead of it having over the net, it was a local area network. It was within the perimeter of the shop. They could communicate. They were able even some of the RFIDs had the capacity to identify themselves where they were. So in case you were going about looking for what they were and all that, right? So strictly speaking, nothing to do with internet, nothing but tagging, tracking, connecting, and reading objects went hand in hand. So this was the beginning of the Internet of Things. So saying this, we can say, okay, so that was an ancient technology and it's over. No, there are products which still use the same RFID technology for pure Internet of Things application. The stick it, find it, these are various devices. This particular device can be tagged along your keychain or your purse or any of your expensive things, and you'll be able to sync up with your mobile. So it alerts or even keeps a track of where you have been and where you have left, misplaced your devices. So this is becoming, I mean, it has played a big important role, and they are making way into the Indian markets as well. So you can see how this RFID is still relevant, which is the Internet of Things. This is an Internet of Things product as a commercial retail product. So having stated all this, we may be interested because we are trying to understand how this will be applicable for our own applications. Uh, it's only contextualizing, but in at the bottom line, every of the elements and the process remains the same. So smart systems and Internet of Things are driven by a combination of sensors and actuators, connectivity, and process. So people and processes. So these are the three basic elements to bring in Internet of Things into fruitful use. Right? Let's see how that happens. So in sensors and actuators, there are an huge array and spectrum of sensors that are enabled and can be able to monitor, track, and also relay them into their devices and monitor and log data. So if you see, you name it, and in every of it we have, from medical to engineering, in manufacturing, process, agriculture, chemical industries, security systems, home automation, all of these. You name a sector, you name a thing. In fact, your mobile phone is one of the most popular and evident IoT device. It has sensors, it has actuators, right? So these are as good as that very large in volume and spectrum. Then, having these things we spoke about, they had to be remotely connected. So connectivity becomes an elementary part or an essential part of this whole ecosystem for IoT to work. So in effect of that, you can see there are smarts, many, I mean, we have, at least in India, I think close to 120 smart cities have been earmarked, right? So for all of them, the basic underlying system is that of the connectivity of IoT. Everything, all smart systems are connected, right? So IoT is an integral building block of a smart city or a smart home or a smart system. For that, connectivity is essential. So there are connectivities in various forms, range, efficiencies, power requirements, the reach, spectrum, because you're also talking about spectrum. And with the advent of 5G, this is going to open up the opportunity for all the IoT services and products to readily, piggyback on this broad spectrum of 5G, instead of being locally driven, and where we're trying to be very agile in the way we capture data, process data, right? So this 5G is also going to enable us to do a lot more and give us a big opening. So in terms of connectivity, there are various defined classes, and they are being even driven by protocols. So wide area network, metropolitan area network, local area network, and personal area network. So wide area network is what would be driving most of our smart uh, devices across seamlessly, whereas metropolitan area network will be driving all our resources, our utilities, and if there is a smart city being identified, all of them are going to be on the MAN, that is the metropolitan area network. The LAN and WAN, I mean PAN, I'm very much sure you're all already we are all using. So we are all communicating on a LAN as much as on which is indirectly touching base with the WAN layer. That's why we are all being spatially, spatially disposition, but still we are being able to interact, right? So all these are a part of it. Without these things, we may not be able to bring in Internet of Things to picture or into action and being able to derive the value of it. So these are connectivity across, but there are connectivity from a device to a sensor and sensor to sensor or device to device within your own space. They're all handled by Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, NFCs, and even QR codes, cameras. These are all relaying data, right? So there are informations that are transmitted. There's a camera which is just pointing out at a screen, where the screen is dynamically changing the QR code, and relevant QR code is pushed to the cloud. So both match, and it's trying to communicate data. So when there are various forms, because when you have to have dynamic multi-layered data, this is a quick way form you can do. And we were even talking about edge computing, thereby we are not loading our bandwidth and the cloud space, right? So there are certain activities and decisions that need to be taken, that needs to be done within the given time space and the location. So the reason of edge is also that we need not have to always rely on the connectivity. So these things work efficiently when there is good connectivity. They download data, they model the system, put themselves into the local device. So whenever data is there, they are not being pushed to the cloud, process there and come, but they can make quick iterative decisions within the device. That's where edge computing and the platforms to enable them are picking up, right? So connectivity is essential part of it. Moving forward, we spoke about the people and process, any device, anything in whatever we might do. So even in education system, we have things in place, right? We have curriculum and syllabus. So they are some sort of a process. This has to come after what, and we need the people who need to be educated or being trained to use these devices, and there is an established process to be followed to derive value from these systems, right? So there is a preset process; they're all defined. So these are why am I iterating on the process? These three elements is whenever you want to think about IoT for any application, first thing is you should understand these elements have to be considered and should start working from the day one. So you cannot say, I will think about it later, because you must be also clear what connectivity are you going to use? What connectivity do you want to avail between two devices or between two sensors? Okay, they may interact. There is an actuator also that can be distinctly connected. Having given that as a backdrop, now let's proceed to see what is it that we actually are looking at in this process. It must be a bidirectional system. It should be able to integrate data, people, process. And at the end of the day, all these IoT or all these systems are making us a better managers, having to be able to make better informed decisions, which has more certainty, which can bring in more directions and outcomes. So they're reducing the risks and being certain of what is to be expected of our results and our decisions. So that is the whole objective of all these various IoTs, or if you're talking about data analytics or data, big data, they're all talking about being precise, reliable, and useful data for decision. So that is what is the whole process, and people are talking. So let us move to the topic that we are talking more. All this is at a very high level. These are sensors, actuators, process, connectivity is also fine. So I'm pretty sure you're all aware that quite a lot of things have made way. We have seen at grassroots level innovations that there are lots of innovation people are doing. There is one a youngster, a youth trying to control the tractor using the mobile phone. These are all a part of IoT, automation, and all of these things. So they have their own benefits, they have their own plus points, and they're going to give us an edge over what we have. Okay. So again, I'll reiterate that these are sensors to connect and interact. Okay. Each they are connected via internet, or it could be, when I say internet, it could be a LAN, WAN, and PAN. Okay. So eventually, it all has to get onto the wide area network. Then these help us in remotely monitoring and controlling in real time. So you don't have to be on the fields. You may have a vast field or a small field. You may be away from the field for whatever, for other, let's say the farmer has to also take forward his proceeds to the market. So he hasn't to be relying on a third party. He can still go away and be informed of what's happening, what actions he has to take. All these things can happen in real time. You can see some videos as well to see how it helps us, right? So these are all, they can include, these connected devices could be anything from pump to sheds, tractors, weather stations, computers, and many more such devices which are used in our day-to-day farm. There is an observed trend in the digital technology in agriculture, in use in agriculture. Okay, it is very obvious and clear that there is a huge demand for the farmers. You understand that the farming community are all moving into the urban for obvious reasons of better livelihood. So either they are leaving behind a very small working force, and the lands are also diminishing. But the number of people is not proportionately growing to, or it's the land is not proportionally growing to our population. So that's where the challenges for meeting the demand is very high. So, and also it's just not that as the problem. We also have climatic changes that are making a huge havoc in the way we used to do. So if you can see in the last few months, we have seen Bangalore and in South, or in India, we have had unprecedented rainfalls, and the way the climates aren't even anywhere related to the seasons that we're experiencing. These are all outcomes of climate changes, whether we like it or dislike. We want to debate, we are okay, right? But we are facing them. There is a reason. Okay. So how do we face and confront all? So people are facing, the farmers are also equally dependent on all these factors. So climate changes like increased temperature, change in patterns of rainfalls, more frequent weather events. Like we said, in the last 4 or 5 months, we've had so many cyclones hitting the coastal region, and even in Bangalore, we're experiencing incessant rains. Some part of some cities, metropolitan, being underwater, submerged, and all that, and lands are being washed away. The crops are being washed away. These are all challenges, right? And reduction. In some cases, we also have reduction in water availability. And mind you, this is not just here. In places, I'll tell you, talk about agri-tech. Uh, they say when there is constraints, that is where innovation happens. Where everything in surplus, there is no need for innovation. Our mind doesn't go for innovation. So, like the popular adage goes, necessity is the mother of all inventions, right? So, when there is a necessity, you'll have to find out way. So, in places, in an arid place like Israel and in the Gulf regions, people are now starting to cultivate. They are farming there. The biggest challenge was water has been one of the biggest challenge, and also the weather conditions. Now using technology, I think that's one of the best example that I would want to start with, or to say how an arid what do you call irrigatable land has been transformed into a green land where they can produce. They have their own producers. So that's how technology is able to impact and change these things, right? So we are also looking at improving productivity. Gone are those years where we say whatever comes, we will, because there was huge uh, uh, quantum of farmers and land that used to contribute. And despite that, we've been always being having shortages of grains and producers, agriculture producers. It hasn't changed any. And to add to the dimension, like we already mentioned, we are increasing in population, and we have other challenges like climatic change and change in weather patterns. These challenges are also impacting. So you need to get more productive, more efficient, more effective in what we do. So it also is necessary today that you have to have an improved traceability of agricultural products, so that today we are having consumers of the agricultural produce who are questioning on what is the source. So we are all aware of an high-priced what we call there is this new. Could somebody help me with that term? There is this new trend in fruits and vegetables. Is it called organic? So people are willing to pay more for organic farm products and produces, right? They are not just twice, 3, 4 times more expensive than the regular producers. So we are now in a juncture where consumers are very particular and want to know where and how it is produced, and that demands or sets your value proposition, right? So these trends and all these things are also becoming one of the things that the digital technologies are helping to cope and overcome, right? And they are enabling them. So thus far, I'll quickly want to pause here. I would like some of the participants to pose questions, and I'd like to keep it interactive, else it's going to be monologue. If there are any questions, or if somebody would like to contribute, because like I said, it's an interactive session, I might be glad to have to be enlightened by some of the participants as well. I'm pausing. I'm waiting for some questions. I'm expecting people to ask some questions or contribute, because the silence is a little airy for me. Am I audible? Am I clear? Is it a little too fast? Please kindly let me know, because that helps us to contextualize the whole conversation and talk.
Hello, sir. It's Dr.
Yeah.
Shalini Gupta
Yes. Yeah.
from Meerut.
Okay.
It's a very nice presentation. I really love to listen on technology in agriculture. My
Okay.
question is, in our country, when actual farmers, mostly those are not well educated and handy for these digital technological advancements. So, do you think that they are going to be benefited with these technological advancements until unless they are not going to be well educated about these sort of area or some sort of exposure has to be given to these people?
True, madam. Your observations are absolutely valid. Technology is of no use if I am not able to use it for the purpose and in context. So this is where most of my references in the first half has been in the broad spectrum worldwide application, and the second half of the last part of it is where we as Indians and we as technology or we as people who want to propagate and we are the enablers. A country is made of the citizens, and we are, the proud citizens of our nation. So we can't expect things to fall into place by itself. So we have to do our own bit and our own mighty small bits that it all comes together. So for a technologist like me and for a researcher, despite all other things, this area of clean tech and for agri technology, I'm focusing because no matter what, tomorrow we are all going to confront a shortage of food. We cannot live with those, futuristic things. However, we are all wanting to have supplements. We are all popping a lot of pills and unmindful of what these pills has the side effect when we could have the natural source of nutrients which has no side effects. Okay, eventually we are going to hit the rock bottom thing, and as like you rightfully pointed out, we have to devise. Now, when you say there were various things. The recent thing we spoke about digital transformation, the digital gateways.
Yeah.
3 years back, there were certain hindrance, and yeah, I would also have been surprised to say how in the worst of my dreams, or the best of my dreams, will our country, with so much of parity in education and technology adoption, will be able to manage this digital payment and gateways. Interestingly, we humans just need a reason, and we are very adaptive. Interesting, and that's how we have been able to survive. We need to provide and provide with, like you said, instead of education, I would say provide them with systems which they can grasp and then start educating. So we have Grameen Yojana and so many things. They are doing so many programs, man, but none of them seem to be effective. I'm a one who believes not in efficiency but in effectiveness. I'll say we conducted 100 programs, great efficiency. I planned 100, I conducted 100%. How effective
Yeah.
are they? How effective are they? If they are not effective, I'm not going to be proud of my efficiency, right? Because our efforts are going in a direction where it is not yielding outputs, right? So effectiveness is something that we as technologists or educationists bringing just mere education doesn't help. So we have to create. Let's say even I will run through some of the questions at the later part. You will have to answer. Okay, I'll be waiting for you to answer then too, Dr. Shalini. I'll be waiting for you to answer, and let's see where we are heading. I hope that the context is set, right? So we will have to
Yeah.
do something, and we will see how we will do it. I'll
Because
also
most of the time, what I have noticed, the students from rural background, when they have taken higher education, they really don't want to go back to their village or to work over there to enhance their agriculture or something like that. What they are doing most is to find some job, 10 to 5 job, and that's sufficient for them. So how
right.
to change the mindset of these educated graduates of agriculture? This is a big question, I think.
Right, you are right. You are 100% right, and I'll tell you when the ecosystem is ripe enough. When I say ripe enough, it is appropriate. I don't know if you know about the digital disruption. The digital era is also going to change
Yeah.
the way we work. Okay, all those people who are proud of being an IT enabled job, uh, a huge slash is about to come by if they don't upgrade their skill sets. We are all aware of bots. We are all aware of RPA, robotic process automations. Whether we like it or not, big corporates are starting to slowly integrate this. A huge amount of workforce was involved in call centers. Now today you don't have any call centers. You have any problem, you have a bot. you may talk to a machine, you may chat with a bot. They are more efficient. So
Yeah.
have you been wondering what happens to these sort of workforces? They're all getting dispositioned, and eventually you'll also see this shift in sector or in the way people migrate from one workforce to another is based on, like you said, money and comfort. So soon we will see that agricultural sector is also going to be more profitable. Today we are all talking about only losses and the pains. I'm not denying it. We have to see how to mitigate it. So this will enable them to slowly, migrate back to their origins. Just to ask them and say, go back. How many of us are willing to do that? We should be doing, and we should enable them. So if technology is there, and let's say there is an opportunity, I have no agricultural background, but I'm trying to venture there is because I see of opportunity and a need that for us to sustain, this is mandatory. And probably when they are much closer to the people who are from that background, will obviously try to relate and they say things have changed. Let us get mechanized. Let us adopt technology to be more effective and efficient. For me, effectiveness is more important than efficiency
Yeah,
because
it's
what I
nice.
produce.
It's very nice to discuss you with these things. It's really very nice, and we hope that in near future we'll be able to convince those farmers to bring the technology to their door, so that they will be able to use this one. Anyway, it's a
Yes, ma'am.
very really very nice and healthy discussion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. If there are no other questions thus far, can we proceed?
Sir, there are few questions in the chat box, sir. Is it possible for you to?
Yeah. We will take it. We will
Yes,
take
sir.
it. Mention governmental initiative towards IoT. Okay. Uh, like I said, Krishi Yojana, there are now exclusive funds, and it's not just the government. There are certain fintechs or people, unorganized sector is being funded by risk mitigation. How are they risk mitigating? Is they are not going to purely rely on the farmer. Farmers' traditional and knowledge is taken and is appended with technology. So they know that their technology is going to help them be able to recover their investments. Okay, so we may be saying, why are we trying to commercialize it? Let's accept. I too do not want to commercialize it, but until we reach a point where even the farmer starts making sense that it is valuable, and if we are okay to pay higher price for everything from education to healthcare to our luxury, but why is it that we are talking about food in that manner? And that's where our apathy towards the industry also, right? So it's not just the government, and there are quite a lot of initiatives. I'll share those links as well. And Mr. Pawan, you say respect to above question. Uh, what is the position of Indian agriculture and IoT? There are some fringe points where people are using IoT. Like I said, there are a huge amount of people who are Spawn. I don't know from which part of the country you are in. At least in 130 kilometers from Bangalore, there is this district of Mysore, the Mysore Palace. No? From Bangalore to Mysore, there are a lot of people who are IT and people who are employed have quit their jobs and have procured huge part of land and using technology for farming. So they're using technology in excessive for farming. And like I said, it's commercial. Let's accept it. It has to be commercial. That's what drives the industry or the sector, right? It's fine until a point where everybody is there. Then it becomes a norm. So yes, a good portion of people are adopting and using IoT. But again, in IoT, there are some limitations which I will share. This is what becomes an opportunity for us to start a startup. Okay, I understand this whole forum is so that we can ingrain or infuse some thoughts, some ideas to contribute to these challenges so that it becomes viable and it becomes much more applicable for an Indian context. So some questions, some prodding points will be discussed further down. Okay, storage and preservation has, yes, sir. Tejas, you are perfectly right. This is where I think at least once in 2 or 3 years we have tomatoes being put onto the open and wasted. It's because once there is a surge in one particular crop's price, everybody is jumping there. And when that happens, farmers must be thought about a little bit of economy, the demand and supply cycle. So when the demand, when the supply goes, the demand automatically reduces. You increase your supply, right? So this is something that they must be taught and be able to say, choose your crops. And even if you choose to produce, you must invest in technology to so that all your efforts aren't wasted. So this is not the case elsewhere. It's only in Indian context, because like Madam rightfully said, educating them and giving them the confidence, and someone has to handwalk them. I would say partnering is always a better choice than handwalk. When you say partnering, you're ensuring that all the parties involved are going to be benefited. It's not that I've done it, I've taken my hand off. No. So in government's case, that's how it can be, because they cannot be participative in profits. And whenever it is government, our laxity of mindset, it's all about mindset also. It's government. It's okay. It is their priority. I mean, they must do. Even if it fails, it's okay. Maafi kar denge. That sort of equation shouldn't happen. We are also accountable. We should become accountable. That's where I say partnership, PPP, the people, public-private partnership models. These are things that we should all explore. Okay? So then things will start percolating. And like you said about preservation and storage would also help. Uh, is there any other thing that I missed? I think all of you more or less have answered, right? Any other questions that anybody wants to answer? I mean, question, I could wait, answer, contribute also. I'll be glad. Else we'll proceed.
Participants, if there are any other queries, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Hello,
Yes,
am I
yes.
audible, sir?
Yeah, you're loud and clear.
Good morning, sir. Sir, I was listening to your lecture and it was a very good lecture. Sir, actually, out of curiosity, I want to ask that presently I'm residing in Sikkim, that's a mountainous region in the country.
Wonderful.
And you were mentioning about the organic fruits, vegetables. So Sikkim already has been declared as an organic state. So, but being organic, we cannot, the common people cannot avail all the facilities. We have to leave other things also, and we cannot skip technology also. So I wanted to discuss, please highlight on some things that how we can use the technology and innovative idea which will be useful for the people residing in mountains, and which can be very much cheaper to the common people also, not only to produce the things in the farm, but also which will be available in cheaper rates in the markets also. So that's what
Wonderful
I
question,
was
madam.
thinking
I didn't
right
get
now.
your name. I am not able to see your name. I didn't get your name.
Sir, I am Reena Dubey, Reena Kumari from IVST. I'm a
Wonderful.
research scholar. I'm a PhD student, sir.
Wonderful, wonderful question, madam. I think I'll give you some hint. Okay. First
Yes,
of
sir.
all, Sikkim and the adjacent, the land of seven sisters, they were the
Yes, sir.
first to, I would say, innovate in farming within our own geographical location. They are in hilly terrain, and this is a place where the primary staple food is rice, if I'm right.
Yes, sir.
Staple food is rice, and rice requires huge amount of water to be, the paddy needs water, right? And
That's true.
stagnant.
Yes, sir. Right.
And since you're a
Mhm.
hilly terrain, it's not the same as that you may find in the Godavari region, or the Deccan Plateau, or south in Kerala, or in Tamil Nadu or Karnataka. You wouldn't have a flat land. So you were
Right,
the
right.
first to bring in terrace cultivation. I'll just give you a hint. Why don't you adapt this? I'm telling you. So how big cities grow? They don't grow. They had limitation to grow horizontal. They grow vertical. I'm giving you this hint. I'll leave you with this. I'll be glad to interact with you and give you some hints further also. Okay. So at the end
Yes,
of
sir.
the session, I'll have my contact. I'll be glad to give you some more hints, or
Thank
even
you.
participate in one of
Actually,
it.
sir, I'm not local from here. I belong to Bihar, though. I've just shifted
No, no,
and
no. I can appreciate. I can
observing these
appreciate.
things. Yeah.
No, no. In our
Yeah.
country, we are one great nation. We have variation in culture, language, weather, land pattern. Ask me. We are a nature. I mean, a nation of so many of diversity. Anything you say, we are diverse, and we shouldn't complain. We should see that as an opportunity for us to grow. And I'm glad you brought this point.
That's true, sir.
And by
Thank you.
doing
Thank you,
that,
sir, for discussing, sir.
your own answer is there. I just few minutes back said supply and demand changes the pricing. If your supply increases, demand will be met and the cost will reduce. The problem of you not being able to supply to the local, but it's all producers are going out, is because the demand for that product is high, and you are not able to produce beyond in excess that the local can also consume. If you're able to produce in excess, do you think the excess can be consumed by the locals?
Yeah, no, sir.
Can they or not? If it is produced in excess, more is there. Can they either they produce more?
If it is produced in excess, then it will be easily available to the common people out here.
Common people, exactly. So that should be an
Yes, sir.
approach, one sort of an approach, right? So I will
Right.
probably discuss further. Right.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir.
So I think we'll just, for the benefit of time that we have, we will proceed further, and you can mark your questions. We'll continue, right? Right. So I told you about the reasons why and what enable these various trends in digital technology. So I'll just leave you with a few minutes of a video, like we say, a picture is more worth than 1,000 words. So this just catches the glimpse of what agri-tech is and how the whole world over is emerging. Let's watch. Hope, is it audible? Is the audio audible?
No, sir.
Yes. Now, is it audible?
It started with a seed.
Is it audible, madam?
Yes, sir. Now it is audible, sir.
Idea.
Yes, sir. Audible, sir.
It helped the world's food production keep pace with population growth and do this sustainably in a climate that is changing rapidly. That every farmer should have access to the breakthroughs in data-driven agriculture. Low-cost sensors that take the pulse of the soil in real time, communicating at broadband speeds across unused TV white space. Affordable drones that create detailed visual heat maps, identifying areas of the farm that need attention. And monitor livestock health, movements, and food supplies. It's the intelligent edge powered by machine learning and the intelligent cloud, empowering farmers at all levels to know exactly where, when, and how to plant and nurture their crops. Maximizing yield while minimizing expense and environmental impact. It's about making farms more productive, big, small, independent, and affiliated. Because it's time to rethink how we work the land and how the land works for us, meeting the challenges of the future as a global community. This is IoT for the Earth. AI that augments our own human knowledge. Helping farmers grow a brighter future for us all.
Thus far, whatever I said in a nutshell in a video capsule. I hope that was interesting.
Yes, sir.
Right. Well, moving forward, there are these. I did mention about technology. Okay, so various technology. We saw there was robotics. You saw there was drones. There was some sensors, actuators, and monitoring stations, tractor automations, and all these things. Okay, so I'll just break them down into some of the popular things that have been capturing attention these days. Okay, so we'll see what robotics are being introduced. In for mainly for dairy, poultry, beef farming industries. Their application could include autonomous feeding and milking. So just imagine today the number of farmers to the cattle. If you're having more, and if you're able to automate, the person who's handling, not many of them need to be there. they can do other value-added activities. Well, as a mundane job of feeding and milking can be automated. You're all aware how Denmark is being able to do that much with a small population because they're all adapted the technology to the health, right? So you have machines which help in milking these cows, right? Then we also have egg collection and sorting. Today we have a lot of farm, these hatcheries and egg farms. They're going physically collecting and after that sorting and all that. Imagine if this is going to be automated and you keep the place clean and I don't know how many of you have actually visited these hatcheries and chicken farms. They are having a repulsive, pungent odor, and it's not a very pleasing environment to be. So imagine if that's going to be a little more well kept. So it's not going to be disease prone. So these the animals are going to be a little more humanely treated, well maintained. The place can be much more hygiene, and these things all can happen when you've been having technology which scavenges out all the dirt and maintains the place and all these things are a part of this robotics. Robotics can do that, right? And autonomous cleaning. That's what I was talking about. There are in the West, they have their cattle that get cleaned every week once. If I'm right, they have machines, and the cattle is made to walk through. It brushes them, cleans them, washes off, and they are kept clean and thing. And in terms of the hatcheries or all these things, autonomous cleaning, they scavenge out the dirt, they separate the produces from the wastages and all that. So this is how robotics plays a role. Now, looking back, let's say if I have to employ 10 people to do this, and assuming that the profits are very minimalistic, imagine their livestock or livelihood. What happens to them? What is the sort of salary you'll be able to afford to them? Just imagine you're able to deploy technology and you still employ these people for other things. Your produces increase. We talk about pie size. I have a small pizza, say a 5-inch pizza, and I have 4 people to eat. Okay, I'll get each of us may get only one size. Just imagine I have an 8-inch pizza which gets split into 8 pieces. The same 4 will get the same amount. I may add 2 more people and yet be able to get more. Am I right? Yes or no? So this is how we have to think. And it's not that what we produce is not going to get consumed. There is a huge demand for these produces. So how do I increase the effective efficiency by adopting to technology? So robotics does that. And still, the biggest mind block is when I'm bringing in technology and digital thing, people are going to become redundant. They're not going to become redundant. They're going to be moving up the value chain. They have to be better skilled. These robotics also need to be maintained. They also have to be operated. So they will also move to the next level of intelligence and activity, which not be very manual and that sort of thing, right? So if this mindset, if you're able to breed into people and say this is what is going to make our lives better, then adoption of these things are going to make easier way. The first thing that we say, even in industry 4.0, this is a huge impedance we are facing in industry when we go and when you're doing consulting and being able to suggest them. The first impedance that we get is from the working class and the people in the job floor is saying this is going to make us redundant, it's going to make us jobless. No, you will be upskilled. You need to upskill. It's a mandate, right? So in the same fashion, even in robotics, and these technologies are going to help early detection and treatment and of the animal health issues also. Currently, we don't even know by the time and thing. These machines will be able to precisely say what is being fed, how much of the produce is happening. For instance, in milk, what is happening? It checks its acidity, it checks its lactogen content, fat content, everything. If there is a variation, and if there is any variation in temperature, when milking, everything, it keeps a record. And any variation, it can be able to say. In olden days, we had few cows. We used to milk them. We had a connect. But today, like one of you rightfully said, that many of them are moving away from the rural to the urban for very obvious reasons. So these sort of connects are becoming a little challenge, and it's getting from being local consumes to global produce and consumes, right? So in those sort of things, these are also have to be addressed. So technology does help. Next, moving forward, in terms of using satellite image, so these things help this is also a new technology in geofencing and no geographical information system. Okay, so most of the time we are just trying in cropping. In cropping, less waste and higher yields. What we are trying to do is we are using better yielding seeds. I don't want to use the word genetically modified seeds because they are not the answer. Because anything that is being genetically modified is making way into us, and we are all aware of the sort of new sort of diseases that we ourselves are subjected to. I wouldn't want to promote them unless otherwise they're being proved that they do not alter our own genetics, right? So, but there are good seeds. How do I select them? How do I nurture these seeds? How do I produce them and maintain them and create a better yield? So, what happens? Good seed in a bad soil, in a bad condition, may yield only that much. Bad seed in a bad soil will not at all yield anything. Bad seed in a good soil will only yield that much, right? But a good seed in a good soil, in a good condition, maintain a condition such that it can maximize its yield. That's what we are trying to do by understanding the soil property, moisture data within the region, and the satellite imagery can say what sort of water table is there, what sort of natural source of water available, what can happen, would there be an indentation which may cause damage to the crop that you put. So all these information is coming also from satellite image, right? And also we're using something called as digital infrared, which I think we also saw in the video. They were using the drone to capture the heat pattern of the field. That gives you to say what needs attention, where there is a disparity in the temperature and shift. Why? What is causing it? Right? So these are all things. Using these things, you will be able to control your irrigation by satellite image and weather. You will know if there's going to be rain, or in the satellite image there is saying that there is excess of water. You don't have to feed water. I don't need to pump in more water. So saving on a resource called water. We are all living in the world and consuming things as if we have it all. But we are all in Bangalore. We all know many of. I mean, most of the cities. I understand there is a huge amount of participants from across the world. I mean, the country. In many metropolitan cities, we have a challenge with water, right? So it is a resource, scarce resource. How do I use? Only when it is necessary. Then pest management. These images can see how the your crop is compared to the neighboring regions. Are they greener? Are they becoming something? These are early indications. So you don't have to wait until it's really bad that you need to start acting. So you can act very much in advance. While even these infrared light imagery, many of you are very knowledgeable about how plants react, plant communicate. When they are ill, they also have a variation in temperature. I hope I'm correct. Because this is what I studied in some of the articles, and we are trying to use this to monitor the health of any crop and take action. Some of the papers have been referenced. They say there is a way the plant communicates its ill health and it's when it's in trauma. So when there's a pest attack, the way the plant communicates is different. The way the heat patterns are changed. The signals they emit a very small amount of electric signals. They change. We call them as trauma or stress signals. So there are a lot of studies being done there. Okay, so all using that, you could even manage pest fertilizer. I mean, if your soil is very well equipped with the nutrients, you don't have to be overloading it with fertilizers. Ideally, it's excess of cost, and it may not just depleted and it doesn't hold back into the soil. Then also you need to know when is the right time to harvest. These are all traditional practices, nonetheless, harvesting and all that. But given, let's say that we say we'll wait for another week, let it ripe out naturally. And let's assume that the meteorology department says or the satellite says there are chances of weather turbulence and things. We may at least salvage what we put. So this is how satellite imagery can be used. So in terms of sensors and electronic identification, this is mostly, like I already did mention, livestock and diseases. There are some tags, like we spoke about RFID tags. These are a little active RFID tags which emit signals and has a higher range. So there are multiple stations which pick up data where it is. And it also monitors the temperature and certain other vital pulses, and it relays. So you know which cattle is where, what is its status, and everything you can monitor. Okay. So accordingly, you know where it is grazing and if it falls in, you know what is happening there, or if it is not able to produce, then you know that particular grazing point isn't. So you know there's a lot of information can be processed. Okay, so it also takes care of the health of the livestock. You know, if you see some regions it's eating, and I mean it's grazing, and it falls frequently ill, then you know that's a place where you should avoid, or you should fence off or cordon off these cattle from moving there, right? So these sort of sensors and electronics for identification purpose and monitoring purpose are used. And these, it's not just for animals. We've also seen sensors for monitoring moisture, nutrient contents of the plants, and also there are some sensors that are moving, basically like robots, to monitor the ripeness of fruit. Is there any pesticide? These are also called sensors. You know, a camera is a sensor. It's a visual sensor. It's taking in data and it's processing, right? And is it ripe enough? Is it right time to pick up? Because some fruits are not always like there are certain fruits. I'm pretty sure like mango in the same tree. Not all mangoes ripe together. So you need to pluck only the ones which is just about to ripen. You know, the others let them reach up to that point, right? So that sort of intelligence or that sort of pinpoint precision, we call it as precision farming, is also possible with these sort of sensors and electronics. So what we actually need to know when we talk about AgTech, and thus far I spoke about technology and all that. So the moment we say Agri-Tech or AgTech, as most popularly it's been spoken in the global arena, so there are certain things that we would want to know before, even if either we want to engage there, or we want to enter there, or we want to start exploring. The first thing is the one of the starting point is price. We need to know how much will it cost upfront. We should know what I want, how much will it cost. Then what will be the ongoing cost? Let's say having uh, adapted to a technology or a method, it's not just a one-time investment. You need to keep it running, and what is the cost for it? Then how much will this save me in a long run? If these three are answered and put in a right perspective, madam, to the question of how are we going to help or how are we going to make farmers adapt to it, you say him this much you have to invest upfront, this much is a recurring cost, and in say in 2 years or 3 years, you're not just recovering costs, but you're going to yield a profit of 2 or 3 times more. Yes, not all of them may adapt. Couple of use cases. I mean, we are species who tend to copy. You know, if somebody else is doing good, we'll also follow, right? Risk takers are far few. Identify those risk takers, encourage them, support them. When they are successful, the rest of the crowd will follow. Okay, so these are things that we must be consciously working. Technology is not just technology, but this is where my research is all about, even to commercializing technology, because a wonderful product. I've seen a lot of technologies that are amazing, but they never make it to the market for various reasons. Either it is prohibitive, or the technology is so complex that a common people cannot use. And another thing is either it is too early to the market that the ecosystem itself is not evolved to take in these products. It fails. I mean, it pains for a technologist like me to see nice product, but you can do nothing because they haven't taken the right actions at the right time. They should have considered all this. Things become effective. Eventually, all that we do has an end use. There is a product or a producer or a consumer. He must be willing to adapt. Adaptation is the only proof of the market conversion. There may be a market, but if they are not able to or not willing to adapt to your solution or your product, it's not a market at all, right? A market is only when they are able to adapt to your solution, right? So these things we must keep in mind. Okay, while these are the fundamental questions that will impact your decisions, there are a few more that you know there is these 6 points you will also have to consider from technology and implementation point of view. The first one is you should be clear why. What do we want to achieve from the AgTech? What are we trying to achieve? If we are not clear about it, as to say what is the use for deploying this technology, how are you planning to use it, this technology is used, how I'm going to use it, what I'm going to derive from it. Subsequently, do your research properly, use the right type of devices, right type of technology that fits your job, suits your job. And you must not just because of mere availability, but because there is a precise reason why I'm using this. You should be clear. Installation. You must be clear about the requirements, networks, devices. If you are not clear of the requirements, so first you have to work. All these 6 points will help you to bring in an effective solution to the market and make people be deriving the best of it. Most of the time, we see people just adapt, jump into it, and make ad hoc changes, adapt things. Eventually, you'll be losing time, effort, and money. Of these three, if you remember, I put it in some sequence, and money is the last. Money, some of us can make later, but effort and time lost is huge. It can never be recovered. And this may be a crucial factor for success of any adaptation. Couple of times, if this fails, you will have a bad reception of this technology. The problem may not be with technology, but the way we didn't do the homework well. That's what I said. These 6 points need to be properly administered. Established or emerging company. Here, this also you have to see: do you want to establish a company or a service or a product? Because if it's a product or a company, be considerate. There will be. It's not a one-time. You will have an after sale. You'll have to timely maintain. You'll have to revisit them to ensure that they are operating in their optimum range, right? So you, when providing solution, should know whether you want to establish or as an emerging company or a product. In any of these things, keep this as an after sales, as a product, or as an aspect that you must keep in mind. Power and data management, like I said, none of these devices will work without a power. So one of the challenges, global challenges for global IoT is power. These are power hungry, power monging devices. They consume huge amount of power, right? So figure out how you could do self-sustained, or look at what are their options available within the region, and what are the requirements for the sensors that you're using. How are you going to power these devices? And these devices become senseless if they're not rightfully powered, and even data transmission and all that. And talking in terms of maintenance, you want to plug and play and get away? Very little, unless otherwise you have self-diagnosing devices which diagnose for themselves and tell them when to take action and when to move about to, right? So you must be clear about the level of maintenance that you want to get in, right? So how much and how often do you interact and maintain? So these are 6 points that you need to consider when you're wanting to adapt or ingrain technology into the AICTE. Moving subsequent to it, the impact. So we've seen few impacts. Okay, like we said, automatic adjustment of farming equipment. Okay, so this is made possible linking crops. You know when to use, where to use, and based on humidity and temperature, when to start sowing them, when to start de-weeding. There is also weeding in weeding of the crops, right? There will be frequently you need to de-weed them, right? Weeding of the unnecessary other. Is there somebody wanting to ask a question? Is someone trying to ask me a question? Okay, right. Next is in large farmlands, IoT-equipped drones will receive current state of crops and send live pictures of the farmland. So if there are some places where the greens are changing or some pattern in the way it looks, you have an aerial view. The drones are helping you in that. I even spoke about the infrared ways. Okay, and also analyzing farmland from land using IoT smart farming solutions. Okay, so you will be able to know what crop should I put based on the weather conditions that might prevail. What is the soil's nutrients, weather, and moisture content, so that what is appropriate to that condition, we may choose the crop, right? So these all are huge impact of IoT on agriculture. Okay, so applications in IoT in smart farming is weather monitoring. I did mention about it. It helps in temperature, in light intensity, moisture control, even through various sensors. These things have helped us to move from traditional conventional method of farming to other ways of farming. This is vastly adopted in horticulture and floriculture. Today, flowers which need to be are normally grown in the cold regions are also grown in every places, because they work under tremendous climate controlled chambers. Am I right? So they're creating an artificial environment so that the flower can grow as they're growing in their natural habitat. So all this is possible because of smart tech. Okay, so weather monitoring, Then smart integration on agricultural land. I spoke about the smart sprinklers. You turn them on only when there is a weather report saying there's no rain and the moisture content is low, and that there is the right time to sprinkle water based on the growth of the plant, how much of water should be there. All these things. So you don't have to sit. And while this is all happening, the farmer has his own time to do something more. He can start doing with other things. So he can have parallel sources of income or other farming. Okay, so he can enlarge his space. Then we also have something like monitoring soil quality, which is uh, without a mention is the most important. If you are not able to maintain the soil quality, your yields are going to be bad. And in terms of talking in terms of organic farming, you need to show that your soil is organic. There are certain parameters. I think there are even some certifying authorities. You need to show, you have to get your soil being tested. It has to be maintained in that particular ratio. You're not going to add external artificial fertilizers or chemicals. So all these things, so these things are there. Spoke about traceability. Today people are saying, and you could say during the whole pattern, this was the soil quality. Don't you think people are going to pay you another $100 more for whatever you're producing? So that's how today people are also wanting. I want to be sure I'm buying the right quality. So these sort of things, and livestock monitoring we did see, drone monitoring also we have been able to see what it is. Another quick video. This is where we talk about how the whole thing is getting transformed and how this is somewhere close to our Indian context. How we could still be, the urban and rural gap can be bridged. So the farmer need not be bound to the rural always. He has to go to the land. He has to go back to his farmland. Nonetheless, he may also have a lifestyle in rural. In the urban.
Smart farming, also known by several other names such
Is
as
it
the
audible?
smart agriculture, digital farming,
Yes, sir.
e-farming,
Oh,
agriculture 4.0, and the precision agriculture, is a way of farming using the latest and the historical data obtained from various sources located both on and off the farm. Sources located on the farm are IoT devices designed for farming, such as the automated cameras, drones, robots with sensors, automated tractors, and other farming machines. All these smart systems deployed on the farm record data over time, such as the color, look, and feel of the crops, weather conditions, amount of water in the soil, infestation of the crops, etc. With all this data, technically called the big data, these devices have the ability to extract meaningful information from it, stream it over to the cloud, and take completely autonomous or semi-autonomous action. These agriculture robots are also known as the agribots. Drones equipped with state-of-the-art cameras and sophisticated machine learning algorithms are used for imaging, mapping, surveying the region, and monitoring the farm in real time. IoT remote sensing devices read the temperature, humidity, availability of sunlight in the area, etc. This information is used to study crops, detect their diseases early, and quality control. Automated tractors and other mobile farming machines enable us to cover more ground in less time. Aggregating all the farming information on the cloud enables farming experts and scientists to keep an eye on the farms just by their mobile phones from anywhere in the world. They don't have to be physically present to watch over the farming operations in a specific part of the world. With the information delivered to their mobile phones, they can suggest the suitable crops for a place, right time to harvest, the right amount of pesticide to be sprayed on the crops, etc. Also, it's good for agribusiness as we can match the buyers and the sellers from across the globe, draw more investment for a specific farming region just by presenting the data before the interested investors and help them make informed decisions. Powered by renewable energy and the big data, smart farms are driven towards fighting the ever-rising issue of overpopulation and global hunger. These tech-enabled farms are more efficient, have less costs, they enable us to notch up our production to meet the global food demands. Well guys, this is pretty much it. If you like the video, do give it a big thumbs up.
so thus far, whatever I said, I think that is put in perspective, right? So this is how some of the questions we had in the beginning also. How would I enable people who are moving out, making them come back? Imagine that they are also enabled with such technology. They'll still say, still I'm living in the urban and still trying to contribute into the agri business, right? And also the last part of it, today I don't have to rely on bank loans or government loans or soft loans. If you're able to say this is what I'm going to yield and this is what I'm going to produce outcomes, there are people who are going to come forward and fund you. It's the same way as you doing business. Your various startups are pitching for the various VCs and engines. The same way you can start pitching with your data to say this is the outcome. How am I going to pitch? So your is a risk-free business, and people are going to pitch in. Also, it's going to ensure that they will also fund you for the technology, and that's going to keep updated. It's a closed loop system. It's a feedback. So if you're going to work with isolation, none of this is going to work. And they say that we'll work it this way, it doesn't happen, right? So if you are having access to the global market and someone is willing to fund you, just imagine the sort of support we might get, the sort of funding we'll get, and you will have to just put in your best and let the IoT and technology overwork for you, give you the data. You have an informed decision. You are making decisions with some sensible, meaningful data, right? That's where this is going to make a huge impact, right? So moving forward, few more application is that we have greenhouse automation, crop management, predictive analytics. Like I did mention a few minutes back, predict what will happen when to produce, when to harvest, what crop to put. These are predictive. How much of a yield can I expect out of these sort of a setting? Then an end-to-end management system. So you might have the whole farm being managed very well in all, and there will be only hardly 2 people managing it. The rest of them only support mechanism who know technology, who will be enabled with upskilling themselves with technology. So yes, all looked rosy, nice, and wow, but there is no system, no solution, no individual without problems and challenges, and that's where we say life is an opportunity ever. So a challenge when an issue posed as a challenge becomes an opportunity. So these were all problems, and we don't want to address them as problems. We call them as challenges. Let these challenges become an opportunity for all of us, for any of us who want to venture here. Okay, so these are few problems, I would say, or the challenges that are being identified that I would like to dwell upon, so that if we can find solutions for them, that's an opportunity for our venture, right? There is no one single unified solution which can integrate different types of sensors and IoT devices. They're all standalones. We don't have a system which can integrate all of these devices. Okay, and the most common challenge being the Internet of Things is it doesn't have proper connectivity in these rural settings and in where there are farms. How can I enable these things with internet connectivity, or can I have another mode of connections? Hint I can give you is like the WAN PAN. Is there a different method and one single drag all of these data in local, then later on upload? We could do any of it. So imagine what should be the best method for our Indian context. Okay, so this is still a challenge that we are facing. We do not know how to overcome them. There are some internet dead zones in most of the rural parts where internet is not as prevalent as we may find in any of the cities. So the second and the most common challenge being these IoT-based smart farming is a lack of awareness among consumers. Like Madam Dr. Shalini rightfully pointed out, awareness is one part of it. How are we going to create awareness? Awareness, again, going back to the point, it needs to be effective, and effective with use case and they being a part of it. I believe in not just preaching but practicing. So create the awareness by practice. Show them this is how it works. See, then rather than showing them something, right, or giving them some discourses. So I would prevent or advise not to go for a discourse or a monologue or a lecture, but make it interactive. Give them understand the problem and say how it can be problem. Come on, let me try. Show them how it. Then their awareness increases, right? So this is something can be a startup emerge, which is only focusing on this. And mind you, when I said this is happening, all of them are going to be partners. Always think in terms of partnership model. I'll tell you, there are people who are willing to fund you. We can show I can produce so much and give that much of a return. People will fund you. Your startup could be funded by an angel or an investor, right? So these are opportunities there. Due to various service providers, it becomes really difficult to maintain interoperability between different IoT devices. So all these devices, each of them are produced by different companies with their own standards and forms, right? So you cannot interchange. Let's say I bought a soil sensor with one company. There are another soils because of whatever availability, non-availability or something. I bought another soil sensor. You cannot interchange and they cannot interoperate. These are challenges. Can you provide an interface layer? If you do this, it's going to be one of the best solutions so far. Today, it's not just in IoT for agri-tech. Across all sectors of IoT, this is a mandatory. Interoperability is becoming a challenge. And a scalable solution that can integrate with thousands of IoT devices and large one. This is in the parlance of IoT language, it's called the platform, IoT platform, that you can onboard all as many sensors, process, everything it manages as a good big, what do you call, dashboard, making decisions, triggering points, and everything. So this is still yet a large scale is not there. So these are some of the challenges, like I said, when posed properly as an opportunity, they become a challenge and they become an opportunity, right? So let us take them as challenges or an opportunity. And a few more in terms of technologies, connectivity, mobility. So how are you going to make these devices and technology mobile is a challenge. And data, how frequently are we going to collect data? Because if they are not connected to the cloud, we may have restrictions. And what amount of data should we store? Just because I have some say 100 gigabytes of data, I don't have to just keep logging everything. You should be able to make sense of what data should I take. So some sort of an intelligence, an AI working at the back end to say what data will I store, what I will not store. These are some more challenges, right? So thereby a 100 GB device may cost you say X amount or say 100. And if the same effective storage is only 1 GB, it's just 1/10 or even 1/100th of whatever cost for storage. Don't you think easy adaptation in terms of cost viability happens? So you just need to bring in these sort of things. So data frequency and data validation is also a challenge in this area. So we must be able to. This is partially very domain specific. You should know what is reasonable data and what isn't, and what to store, what not to store. So people who are in this domain, in the agri-tech or in agricultural or in anything to do with agri and domestic farming and things, you will know what data is important, and you must use that knowledge to say, how do I filter out that data to store, and the rest you can let go. You don't have to store, right? So these are a few more challenges that we had. In terms of cybersecurity, these are things, poor performance, because if the security is bad, data is bad, high susceptibility to hardware damage because they are not, you have to devise or design these devices for hard weather, temperature, maybe impacts and all that, cattle falling, trampling, or people hitting. So these devices cannot be the same that is being used elsewhere. It has to be specific purpose designed. Then high risk of data leakage. Your data has to be secure. Again, we all know data means today's the currency is not anymore oil, but data is today's currency. So you need to take care of the data that you have so that it doesn't be misused against you or for other purposes. Unstable communication between smart agricultural practices. This is again communication, going back to the connectivity issues. How effective, I shouldn't miss out data when it's transmitting and I've lost data. I have to ensure that data is not lost. So these are some challenges that we have. And some of the places where people have been able to tackle it effectively is don't skip regular updates. You must keep updating. So have your devices as an OTA, over the air updates, over the air transmission. So you must be enable them with that sort of a technology. And from time to time, keep updating your softwares. Review the latest technology to protect sensitive data. There are a lot of new security measures and encryptions happening. Use them. Set internet connection restriction from IoT device. So you also say unnecessarily other devices shouldn't communicate, authenticate them. Then enhance the security of all the devices. So they have an handshake and any data or mis operation should be alerting the users. Okay, these are some ways we could tackle them. So I would like to quickly ask, could we list out some of the pressing issues with the agri sector in Indian context? This is open. I want you, the participants, to list out some of them. Please, could we participate in the discussion? I hope the question is clear. Could we list out some of the pressing issues with the agri sector in Indian context? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm just double checking. I just didn't want to miss out. So if some of you can please, it's an open forum. Come on, let's list out. We can list out things that we think that are challenges. There are pressing issues within our own Indian agricultural sector. It could be anything. I mean, I'm not just limiting to technology or, like we said, process, people, government, mechanisms, everything. It's fine. Let's list them out. I'm surprised is that we don't have any problems specific to our Indian context. Participants, I'll urge you to come forward. Come on, I mean, let's not. I mean, there's little more time, and I want to try and maintain the time. I think Professor Mamta is not able to hear. That's what she says. I'm not sure what it is. It's audible. Okay. Please come forward and list out some problems and issues with our agricultural sector. Yeah, please come forward. Yeah.
Yeah. This is Vidyanath Jha from Darbhanga, Bihar. I think.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible? Yes.
Yes, sir. You're
I
loud
think
and clear.
Prime Minister is inaugurating and making address for taking up natural farming on a large scale. But the problem of Sikkim, issue of Sikkim has also been discussed. And I think we have the example of Sri Lanka also, where they are reverting back to the old practice. They have stopped their drive for only organic farming. It is very recently. So what is your views? Excess stress on organic farming or natural farming, what it is called, how far it is going to be productive?
Wonderful. So we know that to onboard organic farming, one of my friend also tried, and he was taking my support and help, and in what best way I could. I was told an ordinary land to convert into organic farming, it takes roughly 2 to 2.5 years. You need to do all that before a land or a soil is certified or is capable of being termed as organic soil, capable of producing organic produce. So 2 to 2.5 years is a given time where you cannot expect anything other than just feed. This is like investment time. Okay. However, we might say there's an increase in demand for organic farm. We should talk about a hybrid mod. Not all that you're going to produce need to be organic. Like I told you, 2.5 years, if I'm going to, let me say, come on, all of us, I'm going to give you money for just keeping your soil idle, keep feeding it with those necessary things to make it organic. Let's get practical. What happens to the produce that we make out of these piece of land, right? Organic consumes are there, and we should have an hybrid model, and we should encourage them that a part of your land can go for organic, but the other part of the land must be able to produce not just yield produced by that, but more than that, so that while you're waiting and you're getting a big lump of money or a good produce outcome, the remaining thing is feeding to the world. It's not just like we said. There are a couple of things that we cannot purely look at from commercial point of view. Is one is that of agriculture, education, and healthcare, right? So these three, we should have certain things for the luxury part, and certain things is a mandate. We're going to say all of us are going to go organic. I'll say, however, our aspirations may be big. I don't think we are heading there. We are all going to hit a very bad road patch. You need to be a little more reasonable, like we spoke about in the Sikkim's case. You need to adapt technologies where a part of it is going to give you that big. So how would you increase your effectiveness? The point now here is about not efficiency, but effectiveness. Whatever I produce, in that if I'm able to produce more, which are usable, then the demand supply equation balance comes in and affordability sets in. And not all of us are going to be going in for, of the lots here, how many of us are going to be wanting only organic produce? I'm okay. If I'm going to get organic, I'm fine. Else, otherwise, I'm even okay with the regular produce, as far as there is no impact on my health. Right? This organic produce is a later fad that is coming from the West. All these many years when we were organic, we were going back to other things. Now, just because in the West people are giving importance that we are saying, can somebody list out the benefits of organic farming or
What
organic
is your
produce?
what
No,
is
my
your
view is that
viewpoint
my
on,
viewpoint is that you must adapt both. I will say 20% to begin with. 20% of your land or your agricultural portion should be deployed. You should start trying. Like I told you, it takes 2 to 2.5 years to make your land viable or capable for organic. So that in the 2.5 years, that 20% of your land is prepared and it will produce and it will yield. The remaining 80% should go with your traditional, I mean, your regular produce, but deploy technology to compensate for 20% and more.
the
That's when you're going to be
predicament
sustained.
that Sri Lanka is facing right at the moment? What
Right.
is your viewpoint on Sri Lanka's situation?
Sir, when it comes to a nation's decision, there may be so many driving forces. Only thing that I will want to draw parallels is because we are in the same zone. We are more or less in the same economic pattern as ours. But in terms of stability and decisiveness, I hope you're aware of their political nature. They are an elected government, but they are indebted heavily to one particular nation, which has a vested interest. Should we develop on it? I do not know. But unlike that, in our country, we are not controlled by a third country. We are a very
They are
independent.
facing unprecedented food crisis.
Yes, that's because, do you know, they are only being wanting to use, because Sri Lanka doesn't have alternative source of income. They are still an agri-tech. They are a sector which is driven by agriculture and textile. They don't have any other technology driven activities. The crisis is because they have to lead up to their global, their GDPs, or their, even they have to import. I hope, I thought I hinted at you, they have a huge reserves that are indebted to one particular nation. And that is driving them so hard that they need to repay. And if you're just going to make a normal produce, they're not going to do that. Am I right, sir?
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, okay, okay. Okay, all right. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I think we lost. Right,
Yeah.
right. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah. Okay. So going back to that point, I think that is how it is being served. So I have my own views, but like I said, some of them are better not because they have political and other dynamics which may not directly come under our purview. Not all that we can say is driven by technology can help. But yes, certainly, like I said, 20 and 80% we must. So slowly, then you want to graduate to 50-50 because you need to even match the global demand for regular food. So if there are no questions or no points, I would like to say some of these things that I've observed, that ours is a nation where land doesn't grow but goes on diminishing. Because if a farmer has two child, it naturally becomes not 50 and 50. 20% is lost in the fencing and other things. So land is not in effect. It's just diminishing and fragmented, right? Thereby, you not cannot deploy huge technology there. Seeds, we are not being doing the right sort of things. Use the right seed, right purpose. Again, I'm not, when I say seed, I'm categorically telling I'm not promoting GM seeds. Okay, unless otherwise we are sure it doesn't have an impact on human lives, right? But there are seeds that can be sourced, and you need to use some particular crop which is of good, manage them well to produce multiple, right? So that's where seeding technology has to be done. Manures, fertilizers, and biocides, we are not using them effectively. We are from supply to use, it's in discretion. It's not very systematic and why or what of it. Okay, and because it's available, it is at a lesser price. Some particular fertilizer is used or manure is used, biocides or pesticides are used. In this, it's in the discretion of the farmer without having the right decision to be made. Then irrigation has been a challenge in many cases. It's not that our land mass is sufficiently water sufficient, but we have disproportionate movement of water. We need to see how we can channelize and make sense of it, right? And also lack of mechanization. Like I said, it's not just money and people knowledge, but also understand in small fragmented land, mechanization doesn't happen. This is where we have to start thinking about cooperatives. We are all aware of how Amul became so popular and how the milk producers became more standardized. They were all very, improvised. They started living improvised life, right? So just you have a landmass, create a cooperative and use this mechanization mechanism and use profit shares. You'll be able to yield more. This sort of mindset, this sort of models have to be promoted. People must promote. We must start encouraging these things. Like I spoke about our friend from Sikkim who had identified the problem. Like the hint I said, if you can't go horizontal, think about going vertical. Technology will help. Has been enabling. Elsewhere, people are doing, right? So that's where mechanization, soil erosion, we have to see how we'll curb. Excessive deforestation is also not the solution for us to say, I'm making agricultural land by deforestation, which is not true. We have to be sensitive to this, right? Agricultural marketing, today we have some problems. I don't want to get in the political aspect of it. We all know what the effort the farmer puts and what he produces, the cost he earns, and what is being sold in the market. There is so much of disparity. That's because he doesn't have access to the direct market. How are we going to handle this? Can technology enable it? Let's prod over it. These are relevant to us. These are challenges that are very much close to our own land. We are confronting them. Can you have solutions for it? Inadequate storage and facilities, like Mr. Tejas, another person mentioned. Yes. How are we going to handle huge cold storages? This cannot happen by an investment by a farmer. So, as an individual producer or a consortium or a group of cooperative, can they? How will you enable them? Yes, if you are going to enable them, you see when there is no returns, nobody is going to be interested. So put in your risk, put your skin into the game. Say, I will participate with this. So if you're going to make this much of a profit, I want a percentage. And let's see if they are going to be making still more money. Why wouldn't they want to share with you, or the facilities that you're able to do, right? So these could all become a private participation, not expecting everything from the government. We know government also has their own limitation, vested interest, whatever. They are driven by policies. There are some parties who are wanting, some who do not want. So I'll not want to debate on it. So otherwise, who's at the people and the we and the general public are at loss. We need to see how we can do this. And this is where private participation should be enabled, bring about it. Right? This is an opportunity. And inadequate transport. Why not bring in an exclusive transport mechanism or an exclusive line? Or you have various case studies that talk about how people have been able to manage producers to be brought in at a very short time, keeping them fresh until they reach. So there are various methods. Why don't we invest or start to come up with solutions for these areas? Scarcity of capital, like I said, bring about seed funding or crowdfunding. And let's say like how your IPOs are there or your other bitcoins. We are talking about bitcoins. It's nothing but it's a someone who's mining and is able to make a bigger number or an IPO or your shares. Why not do that? Bring in funds, pool in funds. And, there are various methods. Interestingly, I've mentored a couple of these startups who are microfinancing fintechs, which are only focusing on farmers, and they're trying to assess their risk and say how much can I, because they don't have a collateral, but still I'm taking risk because I know they'll be able to come up, and they're enabling them with technology or enabling them to make those deals because their money is in risk. They want that money to be safe, so these sort of models can also be evolved. Last, climate change and cyclones. This is something I cannot go change, but can we be informed and can we take some measures in place to be well informed and take care of, and bring in some closed cabin cultivation in high risk and high cost crops so that the damage can be minimized. So think about all these possibilities. So with that, I end my session. I'm sorry, I probably have taken another 15 minutes. Sorry for overshooting the time. If there are any questions, I'll take. Else, you can reach me on any of these mechanisms. And Madam, I'm over to
Thank
you
you,
if there are
sir.
no
Thank you
questions.
so much, sir. Participants, if you have any queries, you can unmute yourself and talk, or you can post your queries in the chat box. Sir, I will get back to you, sir, with the questions if they posted in the
Sure,
chat.
madam. At ease, I know there was too much running behind. Probably it's too much of data or whatever I've been talking might be even fast. I
Yes.
hope that was useful.
Actually, it was a very wonderful session, sir, very detailed session, and it was an interactive session. So I, on behalf of the principal, HOD, staff, and students of the Department of Biotechnology, extend to a very heartfelt gratitude for accepting our invitation. And I hope that you are busy behind your busy schedule. You have spent so much of time in giving and discussion, and it had been a very interactive session. So thank you once again, sir, on behalf of everyone.
Thank you, madam. It was my pleasure being a part of the initiative. I thank the management and the department for doing such a laudable thing. It's necessary. We are all in some platform, discuss and explore. Wish the participant all the best for the remaining sessions, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, you may kindly log off.
Thank you.